Hey everybody, welcome back to Lettermen Row. It is Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters, and only one of us gets to eat it this week. I'm sorry, guys, but I got it. And Schlegels, I left the mac and cheese bites out just so you wouldn't be tempted. But we're going to have a fun, casual conversation, even if we're not in the fun, casual joint. Got Zach Boren back with us, Anthony Schlegel down there, the difference behind him, and my colleague Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward, and the football world continues on. Zach, first time we've been able to catch up since the quarantine began. How have you been holding up?
It's been a struggle over here, man. You know, all of you guys are married, some kids running around. I'm over here by myself, trying to work out of my
That sounds amazing. Oh, man.
No, I would do anything for some human interaction right now.
Yeah, how are you filling the void?
Some Netflix shows, trying to take up guitar lessons and a little bit of wine.
Guitar lessons, okay. How's that coming?
Not great, but I'm trying. My man Evan Blankenship, he's kind of giving me guitar lessons and got a guitar, and yeah.
That's not a guitar, Schlegels. You might want to be careful strumming that.
I know. It's a blowtorch. Let's go.
I think that's what the world is really missing out on right now, is that you two can't work out together and make crazy videos.
Oh, my gosh, it is missing. I know. Mama Schlegels kicked us out of the gym, so we're not allowed up there because of social distancing purposes.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, at the end of the day, I know that I'm around my wife and my 3 kids. Like, that's all I'm around. I don't know who Zach's around. You know what I mean? I don't know who my people are around that come up to the shop, right? So, at the end of the day, I just don't ever want to be the guy that got somebody sick or brought it home to my kids. So, but hey, tell them, Zach, what I did for you guys. I mean, come on, man. I'm trying to set everybody up for success.
The Difference USA and Schlegel set up a gym in one of our guys' garages. So, man, we still get up early in the morning and go to the garage, and not Schlegels' garage, but another garage, and get lift on the Difference USA.
Now you're talking.
Got to get some striking in.
No doubt.
I'm going to need that, especially after loading up on the Roosters. They just started. I went into my local spot on Henderson Road here in Columbus, and they had just started up the online ordering today. They're still doing carry out. We still want to keep everybody in Columbus and everybody, all local businesses, we want to keep supporting them. But Roosters is open. I think 11 o'clock is when they started, so I was banging down the door waiting to get in and get some wings for this show today. Make sure that you check that out. You can still get mac and cheese bites for Schlegel and Birm, and all the wings you can handle. So make sure you fuel up on that. That's what I'll be doing today with my family. And then as soon as we're done talking about Ohio State. So Zach, again, since we haven't seen you in a while, what have you thought about, losing spring ball, the way Ryan Day has responded to this crisis, and the way Ohio State football is really trying to proceed with business here?
Well, it's kind of hard to put into words, right? I never once thought in our lifetime we would see anything like this whatsoever, let alone, kind of the whole world shutting down and college football shutting down. But, one thing that Ohio State has an advantage of is they bring in guys that know how to train. They're good dudes. You've got the best support staff in the country at Ohio State. So I know, all those guys are reaching out, even the doctors, all the way up to the nutritionist, to Coach Mick. They're in constant communication throughout the entire time. So, it's a little bit different that you're not going through that off-season program and in spring ball, but still they're holding, meetings just like this every day, going over chalk talk. And, it's one of those things that the guys are going to be held accountable, and come fall camp, they're going to know who's been doing their job and who hasn't.
Schlegels, one thing that I thought was interesting, Ryan Day gave a press conference or a teleconference to us last week, and it reminded me of you and the way you talk about, Mick and these workouts and the accountability, where some schools around the country are talking about, like, using Fitbits and, having players post their workouts to Instagram or whatever to keep up on them. And Ryan Day saying, well, if we can't trust these guys to do their workouts on their own and live up to the standard and the culture that we've built, then it's not as strong as we thought, that they don't need to do anything extra. I really thought of you. That sounded like it might have come right out of your mouth.
Well, great minds think alike. And, part of the deal is this, I was actually talking to a high school in Texas, and I brought up this to him. One, what is the standard of excellence that they will be held to when they return, right? Because it's going to be very, very easy to see who put the work in when you come back. And I like to, I do a lot with the Army Combat Fitness Test and the West Virginia National Guard. And you're going to have to modify certain things, right? Like you're not going to go in there and do a 1-rep max on a squat or a bench or a power clean or a variety of things. But guess what? Everybody can go out and do a run. They can do a cut 300 or, what Zach and I did when we were in college, half gassers, or in the league, you would do 50 yards, right, in 8 seconds and you rest for 30. Like everybody can do runs like that. Everybody can do metabolic conditioning on their own without having to have a ball or somebody else out there, right? But what is the standard? Is it a T push-up test like they do in the Army Combat Fitness Test? Is it, something like that they can do on their own right now to when they come back? Here is the standard of which we said that we want you to be at, right? So 1, having that in place. 2, following up with what Zach was alluding to, everybody talking to their position coach, talking to a strength coach. That's why there's 5 of them, to see where they are, right? Because, I kind of train a variety of different guys, but some guys train DBs or offensive linemen or D linemen, so they can still have that relationship. And right now, more than ever, is the cool thing is, and that I like, is that everybody has been able to eliminate all the stuff that we like to do, right? Because our world is all about stuff. And right now, everybody's just craving personal interaction. So what a great time to grow and to test our culture, right? And we can do that, praise God, virtually through these type of things. So by them staying on top of each other, seeing what you did, they already got a plan prescribed by Coach Mick. It's not like they got to go and look at Pinterest to see the workouts they got to get, right? Coach Mick's prescribing it. Guys do it. They hold each other, power of the unit, accountable as to finishing the workout of the day. And then when they return to life as, business as usual, here's the standard. And now we know exactly how much, right, give a factor that you have for our team and your teammates going into fall camp. So all those things are already being done, but this is a true testament to the culture that Ohio State has, and to what Zach talked about. Our support staff, our coaching staff is second to none across college football. They don't need anything, right? The things that you're going to start seeing school supply, I would say much more than a Fitbit, because I hate all technology that measures stuff besides probably Garmin and Omega Wave. Like those are the top of the line things. Fitbit, awful, okay, right? Garmin and Omega Wave, which tracks your central nervous system, completely different. That's top of the line stuff. So if you're not going to give everybody that, give them a TRX strap and give them some bands and give them a body weight workout and say attack and dominate. So all those things are in place, and I truly believe that our guys and our culture will stand the test of this trial and tribulation that we're in.
Zach, what were you going to jump in there with?
Schlegs, I give you major props for dropping Pinterest right now. For you.
Dropping Pinterest right after give a factor. Very good.
I didn't even know that you could get workouts off Pinterest, so that's some news right there.
Hey, that's where workouts come from every morning, Warren.
No, not so fast. No, I mean, like, hey, you know what? Just as a side note, I got a really good one that I'm going to try today. And I did it the other day, last Thursday. I did it on a deadlift routine. It was called the Juarez Valley 8. And I got it from my buddy Josh Bryant. It's called Jailhouse Strong, right? Because, I mean, what the hell they got to work out with? They're in a jail. So get swole, gas station ready. But that being said, I did 36 reps of deadlift with 405, and I did 8 reps, then 1 rep, 7 reps, then 2, 6, then 3, 5, and 4, and it was timed. So today I'm going to do kind of that same process, but I'm going to do 20 T push-ups and 20 sledgehammer swings. Then I'm going to walk to my garage door and back as my active rest. Then I'm going to do 1, right? Walk back. And, again, push up and sledgehammer swing. So it's a back, shoulder, and a chest. Walk, then I'm going to come back. Then I'll do 19, walk, come back, 2 and 2. Walk, come back, 18, walk, come back, 3 and 3. I'm going to do it all the way down until I get to 10, 11. Guess what? Soldier for life right there. Bam. That's not on Pinterest. It should be.
Schlegs, not your workout, but it goes back to Schlegs saying, the giving factor, right? It doesn't take anything to go out and run, right? These guys can go to any park. Every governor, everyone you talk to says they want people outside, right? Outside is one of the best places you can be during a time like this, as long as social distancing is intact. But from my standpoint, it's anyone can go out and run. Anyone can go out and do sprints. Push-ups, sit-ups. You can buy a sandbag at Lowe's or Home Depot, right, and use that as, you bench press it on the ground. You can hold it and squat with it. There are so many different things. If there's a will, there's a way, and that's what the biggest thing at Ohio State's about.
Yeah, you're talking about guys who go to Ohio State because they want to be professionals and they want a chance to play in the NFL and get that professional life. This is it. This is the professional model. Like, you have to do this on your own. You're going to have some guidance, but you have to be accountable to yourself and to your teammates. And it's not a situation where you're being babysat. And I think Ohio State, obviously, like all the major programs in the country, are doing anything they can. Ryan Day did say last week that they're sending them some food, and they're able to send money for food based on their Buck ID stuff, and all the ways that the NCAA is going to make that sort of work for these kids. But ultimately, as you guys said, it comes down to who you are, and if the players Ohio State is recruiting and signing and developing are who they think they are, then they're going to do it by themselves.
Birm, great point. And that's, you mentioned a big time word right there, and it's discipline, right? And it's discipline of the mind, the heart, and the spirit. And when we talk about that, I always say this: don't just get through it, grow through it, right? So, we've had to be very, very adaptable during these times. And part of that is our discipline and our daily routine. And I know one thing that these coaches are talking about is, what is your daily routine and the discipline that goes with that, right? Is it, hey, I wake up every single day at 9 a.m. Boom, I go eat breakfast, right? I do a devotional. I do my classwork. Then I take a break and I do my potentially lift. Like, I just grabbed a trash can. Do an overhead snatch squat with a trash can, 20 times, and sit it down and do some abs. Like, you will get a workout. Do that 5 times. You just got 100 squats and probably 200 abs, and you're feeling it, right? So there's always a way, but we've had to recenter our discipline onto the things that really matter. And for a student athlete, it's this. One, I always say, be a great son, be a great teammate, be elite at your homework, and be elite in your position. And so those are all the things that they have to be doing right now. And so they have to really refocus that discipline onto those factors and still eliminate the white noise of, hey, I can't go game all night long and come back and do my routine, because when they come back, they're going to have a sharp reality check. It's like, I can't play Fortnite all night long and wake up at 6 a.m. and go to camp. So they got to constantly be building that discipline in and that lifestyle right now while nobody is watching. Though they're checking in, right? They're knowing how they're putting the work in.
I think what's interesting is that there's a possibility here for these kids who maybe kind of get tired of the routine at Ohio State, or college kids anywhere around the country, that maybe there's a moment here where they actually appreciate it a little bit more because they're realizing how much good it's doing for them. Yeah. And I think you might see a reinvestment of an attitude when they return, just based on the fact that, hey, we maybe complain about we don't have a social life, but sometimes, there's an old adage that there's a bird in the cage, right? And is the cage keeping the bird in or the world out? And sometimes it's better to keep the world out, especially when you're talking about kids who have an opportunity to go out and be something really great with just by committing to what they're doing.
Eventually they're going to get that back. And so, the work that they're doing now is obviously hugely important if they want to win a college football playoff in the fall, assuming there are no delays to the schedule. But the other part, Zach, is that you can work out, you can take that Schleg's trash can and squat it all you want, but that's not preparation for football, right? They're going to have to, be ready to tackle. They're going to have all these things that you can't do right now. So in your mind, how much time, once this is all over, once Ohio State can get back on campus, how much time does a football player need to be ready to play a game in September?
It's funny you brought that up. You know what? When it comes to football, it's all about your quick twitch muscles. I mean, that's what it is, right? It's quick twitch. How fast can your body get from point A to point B? And then it's also mental. So much of the game of football is mental. I was talking to someone, and because we were talking about training and how this is going to affect college football, Schlegel will tell you, we've seen guys who look like Tarzan, who in the weight room you would think are 5-star recruits, are 3-time All-Americans, and are #1 draft picks, right? And they're guys that never see the field at Ohio State. And then you see some guys who, from a weight room standpoint, they, can barely lift any weight, kind of don't really take it serious. It is what it is. And then guess what? They go out there and they're an All-American, the first-round draft pick, right? So you see it both ways. So I think from a player standpoint, you just cannot be sitting around the entire time, right? You've got to have some kind of routine that Schleg's talked about. Routine is so big when it comes to football players and like what you do from a day-to-day basis. But as long as you're moving, getting your quick twitch muscles going, I mean, even fast feet, right? You can go out to a sidewalk and you can work your fast feet over a crack in a sidewalk, right? There's so many different ways that you can do it. And as long as you're running and doing some of those things, yes, the weight room is where, you look big, right? That's when you get off the, you get off the bus and everyone's like, oh my God, look at those guys, right? But so much of football still is just quick twitch and just a mindset, right? Getting from point A to point B and coming with some passion and power.
I love it, man. Hey, I'm just sitting right here, and I got this trash can because Zach said a trash can, right? But I can work on tackling.
Yeah.
On a trash can, right? You can work on a rugby tackle on a trash can.
Okay.
Here, the other thing that they're
Everyone has tires in their front yard, right?
I mean, yeah, exactly, 100%. Like, just go get a tire, work on it. And that's the thing, like, everybody, this is what's crazy. Birm, you kind of mentioned it, about appreciating the routine and structure of Ohio State. And all I know is, I still teach and work with young people, and everybody wants to lead up and everybody wants to have autonomy. Guess what? Now you got it.
Right. Yeah.
Now you got as much autonomy as you want, right? But at the end of the day, the teams that are the most prepared during this time are the most connected, right? I tweeted this out today. How do you get a teammate to buy in? First, you evaluate if you're bought in. That's number one, right? Because everybody's going to be looking at what are the things that you compromise in your actions. And then you're like, oh, that guy doesn't really do that, so I don't have to do it either, right? So one, evaluate whether or not you're completely bought in. Are you doing the programs that Coach Mick does, right? And then two, how do I get a teammate to buy in even though I can't see them? You send them positive words of encouragement, right? Even everybody that's out there right now, even with Zach, and we're on like a messenger, like our, text message thing. Hey, how are you doing today? Right? Other brothers of mine that are in different fields. Hey, just thinking about you. You're on my heart today. Like, that's positive, and it knows that you care, right? And so that's what these kids are going to be doing right now, because it's the teams that are the most prepared, that have taken the discipline of what Birm talked about, that are accountable to one another, that do the workouts that Coach Mick prescribes, that do the chalk talk with their position coaches, right, over Exos.
Yep. Those
teams that come back, the most prepared, are the ones that will win out the gate. And you will see that week one.
That's the stuff that I found was really interesting, not only with Coach Day talking about that during his teleconference, but I've had a couple other assistants on the staff reach out to describe just, I'm just curious what their days are like. One position coach was saying that he had like 1 hour FaceTime calls set up with everyone in his unit. Like, that's a full day. These guys are still used to, being in the Woody and coaching and being around these guys all day. So I think it's they're having to find creative ways to do it, because you can't really, get the teaching instruction and use FaceTime to talk to like 8 different wide receivers. So if you're Brian Hartline, for example, the time restriction applies to the players and not the coaches. So Hartline can call up Julian Fleming and deal with him for an hour. Then, okay, 1 more hour. Like, these coaches are still trying to do their job, Zach. And it's like, it's kind of fascinating to watch the way that they don't want to just shut down, and they can't just shut down because they're trying to accomplish other goals.
It is, but Birm and Schlegel both already mentioned it, right? Guys come to Ohio State. You see it so much in the recruiting aspect of the game. So many people come to Ohio State because guess what? They want to be professional athletes, right? Let's be honest. They don't come here to, so-called experience college. And yes, you get an education, but so many guys come here because they know they're going to play for national championships and they're going to have a great chance at going on to the next level. Birm hit the nail on the head. When I was playing in the NFL, when Schlegel was playing, this is the time where you're on your own, right? You don't have a coach pushing down your back 24/7. You don't have, having to go into a weight room and have a slotted time. You literally had 3.5 months of literally you were on your own workout regimen. And yes, a lot of us guys would partner together because we build that routine together. We'd always come back to Ohio State and work out there. But so many of these guys have that freedom that, hey, they've wanted. And, you want to be a professional. Guess what? Being a professional is coming sooner than you thought.
The other thing
we roll along here on Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters. Birm, that the recruiting world doesn't stop for anything. And the last 10 days, 2 weeks have been pretty remarkable for the Buckeyes on that front. But if we look at just the running back position, you had a conversation with Tony Alford on Birminology. You've got Trey Sermon coming in as a graduate transfer. TreVeyon Henderson and Evan Pryor both signed up for 2021. Really, we spent all of spring and heading into spring ball before it got stopped talking about that position and that unit and the position they were, the state of that unit.
Right.
It doesn't look like it could hardly be any healthier than it is right now.
No, I mean, the beauty of recruiting is that there's always the next day. And Spencer Holbrook and I talked about it on the most recent episode of Talking Stuff, is that in the 2020 cycle, Ohio State misses out on a couple of their top targets. But at a place like Ohio State, when you're talking about one of the 2 or 3 most elite programs in the country, if you miss in one class, the odds are pretty damn good you're going to hit on the next one, because the opportunity at a place like Ohio State is so great. And when you see that gap in the roster and in the eligibility, kids are going to jump at that. And that's what you saw with TreVeyon Henderson, the most recent commitment. Number 1 ranked running back in the country, according to 247sports.com. And you're talking a 6'1", 210-pound, 4'4" guy who has never visited the campus. And he is committing to Ohio State and committed to Ohio State without ever stepping a foot on campus with the Buckeyes. And that's because Tony Alford and what the Buckeyes have built is so obvious to point to. And now the real challenge is saying, hey, now we know we're in the lead. I mean, nothing matters ultimately with a commitment other than a public declaration, which I guess makes it harder for kids to back out of ultimately. But it now takes it to another level for Ohio State to hold on to those guys, because the opportunities are going to be there. And once all the recruiting world normalizes and people can take on campus visits again, there's going to be a push from other programs saying, hey, well, you never visited us either. Come take a look. And then you'll see if those relationships were real enough to get through, everything that's coming.
You asked Tony about this, and I'm curious to get Zach and Schlegel to weigh in on this as well. Like, just having been through, knowing his players and being around coaching staffs and being a coach, like there was this element out there that thought that Tony Alford needed to be replaced because he missed on 2 recruits in one cycle. And it was laughable to me, because at the same time, he was also leading the first 2,000-yard back, or helping guide him to the first 2,000-yard season in school history. He had a backup who was running for almost 800 yards in Master Teague, who was still going to be around. He had the background working with Zeke and Mike Weber and 30 years of background showing that he could act. He was a hell of a coach. And then 3 months, people want to question that. I just thought it was crazy, but I get, that's sort of the life they live in.
Well, what he said was that you coach at a place like Ohio State because you want that type of pressure. And that's, it's unfair from an objective point of view to sit back and say, okay, well, in 2017, he signed J.K. Dobbins, who never visited when he committed. All right. 2018, he signed 3 4-star running backs, including 2 top 100 ranked players in Brian Snead and Jalen Gill. Brian Snead didn't work out. Jalen Gill still on the roster, still trying to figure out a spot. 2019, he had his early commitment from Samson James, and they ended up trading up for the Florida Player of the Year in Marcus Crowley. And then 2020 happened. So it's not like there was 2019 didn't need to be a huge year at running back, because they had just signed 3 guys from the top 10 running backs the year before. So I don't know where the narrative came from that he was all of a sudden not a good recruiter. I guess when you have J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber each running for 1,000 yards in 2017, 2018, and then one guy runs for 2,000 in 2019, people forget that impacts how recruiting goes, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to give you an analogy. So since we've been in quarantine, I'm a big reality dating TV show guy, right?
Well, yeah,
so
you've been on it.
Started yourself.
I love it. Hold on. So I've been watching Love is Blind, right? I already watched it.
Tremendous show.
By the way. But here's the thing. People fall in love without seeing actually what they have or where they're going, right? And so recruiting is the same thing. You saw it with J.K. Dobbins. Coach Alford has built a relationship with these guys and getting these guys to fall in love with a place that they've never even been before. That's almost impossible to do in recruiting nowadays, but it goes to show you what kind of man Coach Alford is, and it tells you how he sells a university, right? I mean, he is getting these kids, these top running backs in the country, to fall in love with him and fall in love with the university without even stepping on foot, where you see, the Clemsons, the Oregons, all these places, and nothing against them, but they recruit by building the Taj Mahal, the best thing in the world, and getting these kids to fall in love with what they see from the physical appearance, right? And I feel like so many people get caught up in that perception that they try and fall in love with everything from a physical standpoint instead of really falling in love with the teammates that you're going to be around, the coaches that you're going to be around, and building a relationship with them that, guess what, is more than the physical aspect that you're going to get from college.
That's funny that you just mentioned that analogy. So I got an analogy. And I was down at the farm, and we don't do electronics until it's dark because I want kids playing. But Trolls came on. I was like, what the heck kind of movie is this? You guys ever seen Trolls?
Of course.
I have a 2.5-year-old, Schlegel. I've seen it about 100 times.
Awful movie. Anyways, it was the only way that you could have happiness is by eating a troll, right? Am I right?
Yeah, right. They're delicious.
And that's kind of alluding to what Zach said, right? It's not all the aesthetics. It's not the whining and dining when you come on campus. Woody Hayes said you win with people. And I will always say this, outside of the academies, the greatest brotherhood is that of Ohio State football. Now, again, there's other ones at Ohio State, but again, I was only part of Ohio State football. And the greatest brotherhood outside of the academies is Ohio State football, and you win with people. And when you get kids that are like-minded, right? Again, culture over talent, like-minded, that buy into the position coach, their future teammates, and everything that Ohio State football represents, they will sign on the dotted line.
When you look at culture, I mean, today, Monday, I mean, every player on the Ohio State team is going on social media and following Ryan Day's lead and pushing out videos and messages saying, thanks for all the work that medical people are doing and first responders and all that stuff. It's a top-down culture, and that's the way it works. And what Urban Meyer built and what Ryan Day has maintained is a place that people want to be a part of. And I don't think it's a surprise when you see big recruiting wins, even from kids that have been on campus once, or in this case with TreVeyon Henderson, not at all, because it's tangible. That culture there is not – it's not just spoken word. I mean, it is obvious and visible. And we've talked about it 1,000 times on this show and in private conversations. The quality of person at Ohio State right now is so much different than it was 20 years ago that you almost can't believe it. I mean, you're talking about a totally different world, and it reflects in every single thing they do, and it reflects on the recruiting trail.
And Birm, to your point, I would say he's not necessarily just maintaining it, he's enhancing it, right? Like that's what leadership is. It's you take something that's great, like he understood. I'm following a legend and all the different things that Urban Meyer brought to the table following Fick and Tress. And there was a lot of really good things there. And then there was things that he needed to blow up, and he did. And now Ryan Day has taken over. And there's things that Urban did really, really well that he has kept going. And there's things that he needed to blow up or potentially enhance. And that's exactly what he's doing. And that's how you want – the same thing with Fickle down in Cincinnati. Every year he's constantly reevaluating, looking at the things I'm doing well, looking at the things I can enhance and move forward, because that's how you grow the program and that's how you grow the culture. You're never stagnant, right? You're never complacent. It's always the mindset of what can I do to be elite? And even if I can be elite just one step more than I was a day ago or a year ago, I'm going to go as hard as I possibly can down that road.
All right, last thing here on Lettermen Live, brought to you by our friends at Roosters. Did this last week, and I keep doing it. We had a question on Twitter from Josh. He wanted you guys to take a stab at this, where if you were Ryan Day and you needed to pick one non-starter from last year and channel all of your energy into making that guy ready, who is the most important non-starter to the Buckeyes heading into 2020? Birm, I'll start with you.
Whew. Boy, does Jonathan Cooper count?
Sure.
I mean, I'm just kidding. I think it's Zach Harrison. Honestly, I think that you look at the potential. You have a guy that is a top 5 recruit all time at Ohio State. You look at just what he did as a freshman when we all sort of assumed that he would be a developmental guy for a year or two, and then you see that that light came on a lot quicker than we thought. For me, it's this offseason for him and how he not just becomes the next solid member of that defensive line, which he already was a year ago, but how he becomes the next top 5 pick. And the development that we saw from Chase Young end of freshman year to sophomore year, from sophomore year to junior year, like that arc has to continue with Zach Harrison, because that arc has to continue with Jack Sawyer 2 years from now. And so it's, that anything you can do, I can do better type of mentality. So to me, it's Zach Harrison.
Zach.
I've got 2 guys. Of course, I can't keep it easy, right? I think on the defense side of the ball, I think they're fine. I really do. You still got Borland and Warner coming back at linebackers, and Schlegel and I know linebackers make the defense right? If you have some guys that are coming back the linebacking core position, that know what they're doing, that have experience, they're going to make that defense right. They make the front end, the back end complete. So I'm not so much worried about defense. I've got 2 guys, and the 2 guys are Trey Sermon, obviously, with coming in from Oklahoma. We need a guy who you've seen this offense, right? Justin Fields is very dangerous with his legs, but it's even more dangerous when he's dangerous with his legs, has a dangerous running back next to him, and can throw the football down the field. And I think we saw a little bit, Master Teague's hurt right now, and you got some of the young guys like Marcus Crowley that's hurt. But you kind of saw what Master Teague did against Clemson. Didn't really come in and give that spark to the team when J.K. Dobbins was out. And I think Trey Sermon needs to come in and be that person, specifically, like I said, to help out Justin Fields. So him and then Garrett Wilson. Obviously, we know what Chris Olave can do, but channeling everything you have into Garrett Wilson so you can line him up on the other side of the field and be a dangerous weapon. Because if you've got Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave on both sides of the field, you can put in, those young freshman wide receivers who can come in. There's not so much pressure on them, right? You can put those guys in the slot. You can move them around, and the defense won't so much be keen on those guys compared to Olave and Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Bam. I see you, Zach. So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to say either who's that other corner, right? Cameron Brown or Seven Banks. But then that's kind of like my 1A, but my number 1 would be who is that right offensive tackle, right? Is it Petit Frere or Jones, right? So those 2 positions, because we know Sean Wade's on one side, who's on the other. We know that Munford is on one side, and I'm not worried at all about Harry Miller because I think he's going to be phenomenal. Plus, he's right alongside Josh Myers and Wyatt Davis as that core nucleus, right, guard, center, guard combination. But who is that right tackle? Because you saw last year how our offensive line finished people and were able to, even in the Penn State game, run the football and run the clock down, right? They controlled the tempo. They controlled the mentality, really, of that game up front from a physicality standpoint. So who's going to be that right tackle? And then defensively, who's going to be that opposite corner of Sean Wade? And the good thing is you got 2 phenomenal coaches that I know are looking at that. And the time that we talked about how what coaches can do right now is control what they can control, and that's getting in the exos and watching film of some really elite players that have played those positions for Ohio State and teach them from the mental aspect. Now it's up for those kids individually to take care of it from a physical standpoint, getting ready to go, because whichever one of those 4 and those 2 unique, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, does all this downtime, discipline of the mind, the spirit and the body to come ready to prepare and play and perform, is the guy that's starting.
I'm going to throw in who's ever replacing Jordan Fuller too, because I think that
I was just going to say, thanks for leaving it for me. And I was actually going to ask you, Birm, if you could guess who I was going to pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's Josh Proctor in Austin's mind, of course. He loves Josh Proctor. Go ahead, Austin. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Yeah,
tell me about Josh Proctor.
Especially because of how important Jordan Fuller was to the defense and that, that safety, that last line of defense. If you're going to rework this secondary a little bit, as Schlegel was talking about with 2 new corners, and Sean Wade moving maybe to an outside spot. You have to have somebody that you can count on back there. And Josh Proctor physically, I think, has one of the highest upsides of anyone on the roster. And he just needed, he wasn't quite ready last year. He was hurt at times, but he also didn't have the same, built-in knowledge of the defense that Jordan Fuller had. So if he was put in there to be the primary guy at safety, he wasn't ready for it. But now this is his time. There's no other option. Marcus Hooker has made some improvements, and he's got some playing time in key moments. But there's nobody who has the NFL upside of Josh Proctor to play safety. He's got to be the guy for the Silver Bullets to be at their potential. As Zach said, the linebackers, that's a huge help that what you have with those frontline guys in Bordelon and Warner, and they're going to be in charge of a lot of organization. You got Baron Browning with experience, Taraja Mitchell with some experience. Linebackers are going to be great. I think you got to have an answer at safety, and I think Josh Proctor has the pressure to do that. And I also get to have the last word, so that's helpful for me to close it out with that. Really appreciate Anthony Schlegel there, the difference, coming to join us live from doing some work. Zach Boren from home. We're gonna have to keep
ribs over here.
we're gonna send you some delivery carry out there from Roosters for the next time. And we're hey, if you needed somebody to talk to, we'll just do some more Buckeye Qs on Zoom. Keep you busy. And Birm, as always, joining us from his home studio. I'm Austin Ward. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you have a chance to go get some Roosters yourself. We're going to see you next time on Lettermen Live at Lettermen Row. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Lettermen Live. We've got the practice report. We got rapid reaction. Hey, and we got Buckeye Q with Zach Boren.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Birm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.